Hi everyone in cloud computing, and welcome to episode 16 of the Cloud Computing Training Show with Brad Nelson and internationally recognised and world's #1 industry expert and thought leader David Linthicum. This show is sponsored by Nelson Hilliard, cloud computing recruitment specialist placing great people in cloud, IoT, fintech and AI. This week we're excited to have as our special guests the CTO and CEO of Hyperscalers, Anoonay, Sinha and George Cvetanovski. Hyperscalers is a next generation infrastructure provider operating out of Australia, USA, Europe, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea and India. Hi Dave and George and Anoonay, a warm welcome to you all. It's exciting to have you all on the training show this week.
Great to be here again. Brad, David, thanks very much for having us.
Hey Brad, hi David, great to be here again. Thank you.
Well, it's great. It's great having you guys as guests, man. We love the extra perspective.
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is. You guys have been great this week. We've obviously just recorded the C-Suite show and Cloud Computing Australia. So if everyone's watching this, jot back a few links and you'll see some great shows there where the hyperscaler guys have really been very insightful into the market and what's going on with the exciting world of hyperscaling. So in this week's show, we'll be talking about, have we reached a point where we're updating technology just to keep the technologists, and have the use of training system increased the demand that legacy systems will be replaced? Over to you, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of an interesting topic because, you know, what we're seeing is enterprises are not moving to new technologies in some cases. The Global 2000 is the slowest to move, and obviously the government, the Global 1 in the United States, is also extremely slow to move. And so people get frustrated with that. And I think that training systems and the ability to access training using computer-based videos, things like that, lynda.com and Cloud Academy, and you know, there's thousands of others out there that are doing this, really kind of opens up the floodgates in terms of people training themselves on kind of the new and more interesting technologies, machine learning, IoT-based systems, cloud-based systems, you know, things that are very sexy, shiny objects, things like that. And then they get frustrated when they go to work every day and they're working on, you know, C++ systems that are 20 years old and Java systems that are 15 years old and LampSec systems that are 15 years old. And there's no hope in sight of them modernizing the systems. And so they're leaving. And they're basically opting to work on newer technology. And they're doing so. I love your perspective on this as well, Brad. They're doing so for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're able to get more money, which is a good reason. And number two, they kind of view what they're doing as more state of the art and therefore meaningful to their career. And so I'll throw this to the hyperscalers guys. I mean, as you guys are out there working with enterprises out there, you know, moving, you know, their traditional systems to your technology, do you see this kind of frustration? Do you see this affecting companies that you're typically dealing with or have dealt in the past in other careers?
Absolutely. Look, in any very large enterprise, we are seeing the champions out there really pushing for change, whether it be for a IaaS platform to consolidate the various silos, whether it be the requirement for training on open networking. We have a philosophy, you know, start with open networking here and, you know, remove all the proprietary limitations. And I'm talking about the ability to make changes on the fly of you know, a newly exposed vulnerability. You're able to do that on the fly with an open networking software piece, which goes on top of our network switches. So I guess in hindsight, there are many different layers, starting with the networking side of things, going all the way up to storage, compute, the virtual, and even the orchestration layer. We provide many types of training videos for every software-based stack. So the last one we did was on OpenQRM on how to create a VM template and a container-based template for different use cases, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, I mean, if we say that how we add value in hyperscalers to solve this problem is not only we integrate or we communicate with large enterprises. On the hindsight, we also work with universities where the university guys comes up with their own thoughts, their own ideas, and working in our lab, we work on those small projects, not really an enterprise-sized project, but small project which excites everyone. And for example, recently we are working on a 5G solution. So if I know, coming from large enterprise myself, I know there are talents within the various teams who want to experiment with new stuff, new technologies, new tools. So we reach out to those teams with these innovative ideas and say that, yeah, we have a prototype running in our lab. Why don't you talk to us? Let's work together. Let's build on top of it. So these are the initiatives I believe we do in our lab in Hyperscalers, and we contribute to enterprises in keeping their interest alive on what is hot in the market and in what way they can leverage our capabilities.
Yeah, in the end, it's about supporting the champions in the enterprises that are facilitating these changes. The best way to do that, I think, is through standardization, through automation tools where they can get the required training on any type of infrastructure as a service platform. Even be able to test various platforms with the view of ascertaining which one is best for their business, getting a bit of training around that to demonstrate to the business on how to carry these workloads. And sometimes that's successful, and many times it's not. We've certainly seen those champions leave the enterprise once they're disappointed that perhaps no change is going to happen, and quite often enterprises then that forces them to change.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like considering things from the enterprise space. They're like, well, why should we change? There's no business case for doing that. But obviously, I think people in IT would see the business case firsthand. They can kind of look at what's going on and see the fact that there's potential, or basically the art of the possible, in terms of we can take this technology, your technology being a good use case for that, and make something better than we currently have right now, and change the aspect of the business and basically get to a core disruptor, and so make something that's more aligned with the Ubers and the Airbnbs. Not that everybody can be an Uber and Airbnb, but certainly they can disrupt the markets that they're in. Even in the government, it's kind of funny. I do see state government organizations that are very innovative and very proactive in dealing with technology, and they're certainly way ahead of the game in terms of leveraging stuff to provide better citizen citizen services and things like that, to the point where the citizens are extremely surprised that they're getting basically better service from the government than they are from a lot of the commercial organizations they're dealing with, and retail organizations. And that's few and far between, but those sorts of things are out there. And when you talk to the government as to what's motivating them, they say we want to attract the best and the brightest and leverage the best technology to provide value to our citizens. And if you look at the value metrics or where they come from, it really kind of bears that out. So in other words, the technology is able to find its value, increase the capabilities of the organization, typically do it in a more effective and efficient way. Employees are staying. In fact, they're going to the state government, which is unheard of. Some of the best and the brightest are coming out of the Googles and the Microsofts of the world and going to these organizations, which is a great thing for them going forward, providing stability in careers. And then also they're focusing on training of these individuals so they keep them in place. And so they, in other words, are not only getting people who are excited about utilization of technologies like yours and the cloud technology, things like that, but people are hungry for additional technology going forward. So, Brad, I'd be interested in your take on all this. So what are you seeing out in the spaces you're doing recruiting?
Well, it's very interesting, actually, because if people are not getting trained up in the right way, and the company's not supporting the training with regards to the latest technologies, and they're still being trained up on legacy, there's issues there to, again, retaining good quality staff. And staff choosing, employees, or candidates in my sort of world, choosing not to actually go forward for a position because they know the systems that are being used. They know the cultural fit isn't right for them, regardless of whether the recruiter knows that or not. If the recruiter hasn't done their job properly with identifying the cultural fit, if the recruiter hasn't fulfilled their, judgments on identifying the key points of interest that the candidate will want out of that opportunity, the challenges, etc., what the working environment looks like, what the line manager's expectations are for outputs. If that's not there, it sort of is counterintuitive for any candidate, regardless of training and regardless of system. But it's certainly, and we're seeing it, and I think there was a report done actually, by a Macquarie report done that a strategist wrote that the more educated millennials are now, they're making a huge amount of difference with regards to the consumer cohort. I mean, I think it's the largest consumer, or the most important consumer cohort in history, because they're so connected, and it gives them the power to control the purchasing decision, but not only from a consumer point of view, but equally in the workplace. They're more connected, they're more savvy with what's going on, and they want to be seen by their peer group to be working for an organisation that's going to really, offer them the challenges and the money and the career and the excitement. How frequently can I go to Bali and do this job on my laptop? It's just some of the mindsets are, we want flexibility, we want lifestyle. Yes, that's suitable for some jobs and not for others, but essentially I think there's a real mindset shift out there with that next generation coming into IT that's making a big difference.
Absolutely. Look, it's in the end, it's all about solving problems, and the younger generation, in particular, perhaps coming out of university, is always out there looking how we're going to use IT to solve these unique organizational problems or even these industry widespread problems. And I think some of the more exciting stuff we're working on at the Hyperscalers is the use of blockchain technology, not for creating a new currency, but using that technology just to solve common problems, such as the problem of 30 different logins across government, or over in the US, Dave, the emails the messages being wiped from Donald Trump. So some of these issues are solvable through the rise of new technologies, and kids are quite jumping towards these kind of solutions that we're coming up with.
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting to see a lot of university kids jumping onto this project proposal, coming up with new ideas. This can be done, that can be done. So, I mean, it adds to the excitement value, and it slowly evolves into a good, sustainable solution going to the enterprise. Yeah.
So, Brad, I'm going to kick it back to you, and probably the last question that I have. So, is kind of the demand for training, back to the question that we talked about in the original at the beginning of the show, is kind of the demand for training and the ease of training and the ability to get information as almost as a commodity, leading to people becoming frustrated with older technology that happens to be at their employer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the next generation that are leaving university, and not even just that generation, I mean, even your 35-year-olds and around that sort of area, just giving a number to it. I mean, this isn't an ageist approach at all, because I think everyone that's in IT is seeing the impact cloud computing is having on their day-to-day. We spoke briefly about DevOps and the C-suite mentality, appreciating DevOps as an ongoing thing. And I think it filters down through the chain of command within the IT ranks that everyone needs to be aware of training. It needs to be, a constant, the IT world's in a constant state of flux with change. And I think that's an exciting thing, because constant change offers a huge amount of disruption and a huge amount of opportunity. And I think that people need to be, not sitting complacent or in their comfort zone too often, but they need to be embracing the change and embracing various forms of training. And that means not only sitting back and appreciating the training, or you at least hope you can appreciate the training your existing employer offers you, but equally saying, well, at least I'm getting some training, but I know I need more. And it probably gives you a chance to evaluate and ask yourself better questions. There's a vulnerability out there for the older generation in IT, because they feel that their job could be pushed out. They feel that there's not the space because the younger generation are coming in. And we can't afford to have that, because there's a huge amount of life experience in the older generation within IT, which is so valuable to guide the new generation. It just needs to reframe itself and it comes back to training again, making sure the right training is relevant to the skills they've had. And essentially, one of my main things is about passion. Following what is it that they're going to do with their next stage of life in IT in a cloud computing environment that's going to be their passion, that's going to drive them. I may not have a position that they're looking for, but I'd be quite happily to understand where they're at in their current position and what they want, and point them in the right direction to some training.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great advice.
Well, I think on that note, I think that was the final question. I didn't take this. I didn't take the subtle cue and close the show out. But no, guys, it's been wonderful. It's been a great week with great shows. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and George, Anoonay, it's been wonderful having you on the show this week.
Fantastic. Great to be with you again, gentlemen. Thanks very much.
It was great discussion, Brian and David. It was great to be here. Yep.
And thank you, David, for being a part of this week's training show.
You got it, man. Peace out, guys. Have fun.
Thanks again. And thanks again for watching, everyone. We really hope you enjoyed these week's shows. They've been pretty awesome. The Hyperscaler guys have got some really exciting technologies they're working on at the moment. And yeah, check out the link below at hyperscaler.com. It'll be in the description box somewhere down there. And yeah, thanks for watching again. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future shows. And the old ones as well, because they're not bad. And we're on Twitter, which is, Hyperscalers are on Twitter, sorry, which is at Hyperscalers. David's on Twitter, which is at David Linthicum. And Twitter myself, which is Twitter myself. What am I talking about? I'm on Twitter as well, which is at Nelson_Hilliard. Thanks again for watching.